Let's do it.
The map is out. Or it's not out. It will be out. It's out because we've reported it.
First in Punch Bowl News, not actually published yet.
Exactly. And it is aggressive.
Good morning. I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punch Bowl News. It's Friday, TGIF, August 15th, 2025. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, we've got some news. The Trump administration is calling Indiana Republicans to come to the White House as it ramps up its pressure campaign to get the state to engage in their redistricting efforts. Number two, Mark Kelly's quest for a national profile. And number three, Jake, we've got a fun one, the Punch Power Matrix. Who's up and who's down this week? All right, let's get into it. Of course, all eyes are on what's happening in Alaska, but we are leading off Punch Bowl News this morning with a look at the Trump administration's power and pressure campaign on Republicans across the country, zeroing in on Indiana to try to get them to engage in a redistricting effort to try to squeeze some more seats out of the Hoosier state.
Yes, the president or the White House, I don't think the president made the invitation, but invited all Republican lawmakers from Indiana, state lawmakers, state legislators, to the White House August 26th for a meeting in which I have to imagine redistricting will be a main topic. The Indiana Republicans in the state house have been hesitant, let's say, to say the least, to give Republicans another seat in the House. There are two Democrats from Indiana, Frank Mervan in basically the Chicago suburbs and exurbs around Gary, Indiana, and Andre Carson around Indianapolis. They think that they can get rid of one or both of those seats, more likely one, and that would be Mervan, by diluting him with a bunch of Republicans from surrounding districts. Indiana has kind of been all over the place, and remember, J.D. Vance was just out there last week to meet with Mike Braun and other Republicans on the issue, but they have been very reluctant. And this comes, Anna, as another more big news that we have this morning in California, which I think we should just touch on quickly.
Let's do it.
The map is out. Or it's not out. It will be out. It's out because we've reported it.
First in Punch Bowl News, not actually published yet.
Yes, exactly. And it is aggressive. They are basically eliminating Ken Calvert, who represents the Inland Empire, Palm Springs, California, and Doug LaMalfa, a Republican in the northeast corner of the state. They're basically dragging LaMalfa, diluting him with some Bay Area Democrats. And Calvert, who was already in trouble, they've made his district worse. This is an aggressive effort. They are also going after Daryl Issa and David Valadao, Kevin Kiley. Listen, this is tough, Anna, because this has to go to the voters. And Democrats are going to try to make this a check on Trump. Republicans are going to try to say they're just rigging the map, Anna.
I think, Jake, the thing that is important to note here for Democrats, for years now, they have tried to move the redistricting process in a lot of states, particularly in California, into a nonpartisan commission or away from politics. Now you have Democrats ripping up that playbook after years of saying this is the way that the districts should be done in this state. And they're saying, hey, we have to play politics here. I don't know how that's going to play in the state. There's certainly going to be some Democrats who are on board. They're going to have money, House Majority PAC, others weighing in here. But I assume there will be others, third-party groups, other Democratic groups who spent years on this idea of having a nonpartisan commission who are going to say, wait, like, whoa, just because of Donald Trump, are we really going to scrap an entire philosophy and an ideology that they've tried not only to do in California, but across the country?
Yeah. No, it's going to be a very difficult argument because Californians not only pushed this to a nonpartisan commission more than a decade ago, the nonpartisan commission is actually incredibly popular. Now, I'm not sure how many California voters are like very aware of the fact that there is a nonpartisan commission, but the idea of saying, do you want politicians drawing your congressional maps or do you want a nonpartisan commission? I mean, that's going to win every time. But I was talking to a Republican involved in this yesterday, and they said if this is a Trump versus Democrats argument, Democrats will win. If it's a fair kind of equity argument, process argument, Republicans will win. This is going to be, I'll be honest with you, it could be like $100 million campaign just on the ballot initiative. That wouldn't be hard for me to see. So one of the big stories will be, over the next couple of months in November, this ballot initiative will be on the ballot. And I have to imagine that someone at Punchbowl News will be making a trip to California in these interim months.
You're starting the Austin Bureau. Maybe I'll start the California Bureau. That might be, I might raise my hand.
Too much traffic. I'm not interested.
All right, Jake, let's move on to the number 2 story of the morning. Andrew Desiderio on the ground in Phoenix, Arizona, obviously a key state in electoral politics. And he caught up with Senator Mark Kelly, who had some aggressive language when it comes to the cuts on Medicaid that the Trump administration is enacting, as well as just overall politics. An interesting point for Kelly, right? Where, he's kind of been a senator, certainly doing the work for that state, but taking a much bigger potential political point of view, trying to kind of get into national politics here, which obviously anytime somebody does that in the Senate or elsewhere in the Democratic Party right now, people say, oh, are they looking at the Oval Office?
Yeah. I think Kelly will be one of the many Senate Democrats who toy with that. But Arizona is obviously a very key state for electoral politics, a bunch of interesting House races in the state. Mark Kelly is taking a more prominent view, and his point is that if the election were held today, which it's not, for president, Donald Trump wouldn't have won Arizona. He won by more than 5 points just 9 months ago. Listen, this entire election, if you listen to Democrats, is going to come down to the one big beautiful bill, which did have cuts to Medicaid. And Kelly's point is, I don't think Arizonans voted for Medicaid being cut. And he said 250 to 300,000 people will lose Medicaid coverage over the next decade. But one of the points to make here is that Medicaid cuts don't come up until after 2026, which, I think is somewhat important, not incredibly important, because I think the insurance climate will change between now and then, but a very interesting political issue. And Andrew's, when Andrew goes on the road for a couple of days, he's got like 75 items. So I think we'll be hearing about Arizona in all of its glory for the next the next 4 or 5 days, which I'm excited for.
And we appreciate that hard work on the ground. Safe travels, Andrew. Let's move on to the number 3 story of the morning. We aren't always able to bring you this fun feature that is typically for our premium subscriber audience, but we have Who's Up, Who's Down, the Punch Power Matrix. Jake, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary's control over economic policy is only getting stronger. He came out on top of another internal power struggle this week, and former IRS Commissioner Billy Long is headed to Iceland. Sold.
Yes.
But a good week for Scott Bessent.
Yes, indeed. And Sherrod Brown is another up. He is running for Senate again in a very uphill battle against John Husted in Ohio. Russ Vought has won an appellate court ruling saying only GAO could sue the administration for slashing billion in foreign aid approved by Congress. A procedural ruling, but still a win. And our downs, Anna, John Cornyn, as we reported, I think, a couple days ago, SLF is going to have to spend tens of millions of dollars on his reelection against a scandal-ridden candidate. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who was in Martha's Vineyard yesterday and maybe today, she said picking up her daughter, but it is a perilous time, a touch-and-go time in the District of Columbia. You're in my hometown here. And Donald Trump is another down. He hasn't had a great week. National Guard troops are in D.C. despite falling crime rates. His pick to lead BLS was at the Capitol on Jan 6. Inflation's still an issue. A good outcome in Alaska could change all of this. The Power Matrix this week by Brendan Peterson, because Max Cohen is taking some time off. He's on vacation.
Brendan, very nicely done. We appreciate it. We are going to leave it there. Thank you all so much for listening and watching on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are very quickly going to be launching our own weekly show, Fly Out Day, which we're very excited about. And as always, you can go deeper on all these stories and more at punchbowl.news. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.